Hey y'all, Gary Humble here with Tennessee Stands. Legislative session is in full swing, and so many of you already have gone onto our website to take action with us to contact your legislators on a host of issues. And before I get on to this issue that I want to talk about today, central bank digital currency and a bill in particular, I'll take you to our website and just show you our tool. If you go to TennesseeStands.org, of course, please click on the subscribe button and make sure that you're on our email list, because a lot of this information we're sharing with you via email. But you can always go to TennesseeStands.org and you click on Act on our menu and go to Legislative Priorities 2024. And this takes you to our page that features all of the bills that we're curating that we believe, whether they need to be supported or opposed, we believe these things are the bills that you need to know about, and we're giving you opportunity and tools to contact your legislators on these issues. You can sort through all of these issues. You can click on Constitution. There's a couple of constitutional amendments, things dealing with criminal law, health care, tons of stuff on education that we've pulled up so far. But I'll go back to health care for a moment. For example, this bill in particular is the kind of this no patient left alone bill that we've been trying to see passed since COVID, quite honestly. But if that's something that piques your interest, you can click on Read More. We'll give you a quick synopsis of the bill. You can see the bill right here on our website. Let me go back there for a moment. And if it's a bill you feel like you want to take action on, you can click the Take Action button. We give you a synopsis of the bill, and then you've got a quick form to fill out. And this email is fully editable, as well as the subject. You can add a personal message, click Send, and you've now emailed every legislator that sits on the committee that's currently hearing this bill. It's literally that simple. For those of you that want to go to the next step, you can make phone calls. We give you talking points. You click call, and your phone will be directly connected to the offices of these legislators. So it's super simple to go to TennesseeStands.org and take action. But what I want to talk about today is this bill, SB 479, and what it purports to do in terms of central bank digital currency. We asked you to take action on this bill. You did. Subsequently, the bill was amended, and I'll show you that amendment here in just a moment. But we've also received some emails back from emails that you've received from some of your legislators, and I'll show you one in particular. Before I do that, here's the clip of Senator John Stevens, who is sponsoring this bill in the Senate currently here in Tennessee. And here's the clip of him presenting the bill, his synopsis, and explaining the amendment that they've posted on the bill. Watch this clip.
The latest updates to this are the 2022 Uniform Amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code. They accommodating the emerging and emerged technologies such as distributed ledger technology, commonly known as blockchain, and artificial intelligence. The amendments bring the UCC into the digital age by providing commercial law rules for these new categories of transactions, the transfer and leveraging of virtual currencies and other digital assets. And so that's a general explanation of what the bill does in general. But amendment number 1, there's been concerns that because these set up the default rules when businesses want to transact business using digital currency, the UCC, these amendments deal with what happens. What are the default rules when somebody wants to transact business using digital currencies or this blockchain technology? There's been a lot of concern that these rules set up something for a digital national currency. And so amendment number 1 makes clear that is exactly not what these do. It says explicitly that a national digital currency is not created and is not recognized by Tennessee law. And with that explanation, that is amendment number 01465.
All right, so right off the bat, let me just say I'm thankful for the amendment. I'm thankful at least for number 1. Legislators are getting your emails. They're hearing the concerns. And in this particular instance, they made an adjustment. So let's take a look at the amendment. There's a couple of other small things that they fixed in this amendment, not really worth mentioning right now. This is the amendment primarily, the language that he was referring to in his presentation. So they've added a section to the bill which simply states, national digital currency not created or recognized. Chapters 1 through 9 of this title do not endorse, create, or implement a national digital currency. So look, I'm thankful for that amendment. That's certainly a step forward in addressing some of our concerns. But the fact of the matter is, the issue is that we're not really concerned that the bill is going to create a national digital currency. We're fully aware here at Tennessee Stands that the state of Tennessee cannot create a national digital currency. What we're concerned about is that these regulations that are being passed set the table that undergird the use of a national digital currency. So I'll take you here to this email. This is an email that was received by constituents from Senator Jack Johnson. And he says this: thank you for taking the time to email Senator Johnson regarding your concerns over SB 479. There has been a lot of misinformation regarding this bill, which is why we've asked the sponsor to roll the bill for 2 weeks. And they say in the email, attached above is an amendment which clarifies that this bill does not create nor recognize any type of national digital currency, the same amendment which I've just showed you. It's interesting. If I've not seen one, I've seen 50 emails coming out of Senator Jack Johnson's office telling people that the issues they're having with the bill is simply due to misinformation. It's not that there are perhaps things they need to look at. It's not that we should be concerned. You just don't understand how great of a job your Republican supermajority is doing. And you have issues only because really you're being misinformed by organizations like Tennessee Stands. This is the working mantra, right, of the current leadership in the General Assembly. But this bill that we're concerned about, here's what it does. These are the 2022 UCC Amendments, Universal Commercial Code Amendments here in Tennessee. This is being pushed by the Universal Commercial Code Organization nationally. They're pushing this into all 50 states, all right? This is the same bill that Governor Kristi Noem vetoed last year because of her concerns with the bill once she became aware after it passed the legislature. This is what she had to say back when Tucker Carlson was still on Fox News. Listen to this.
Several states are now trying to centralize currency with a so-called central bank digital currency, which is, by the way, not currency at all. It's software. But they're going to do it for your own good. Obviously, this is a tool of total social control. If they control your money, if they can zero out your bank account with a keystroke, then you have no autonomy. They control you. Well, in the state of South Dakota, legislators just passed a bill that would have changed the definition of money to exclude cryptocurrency, and that would put the state on a path to centralized digital currency. South Dakota's governor, Kristi Noem, the only governor we're aware of who's paying attention to this, vetoed that bill. She joins us tonight to explain why. Governor, thank you very much for doing this first and for coming on. Why did you do it? You're obviously under pressure not to veto it, but you did. Why did you?
Well, Tucker, it was the right thing to do. I became aware of this bill. It wasn't introduced until almost halfway through our legislative session. We started reading through this bill that was over 110 pages long. It was sold as an update to the guidelines of the Universal Commercial Code, backed by all of our financial institutions, our banks. As we started reading through it, we saw the section of the bill that changed the definition of currency. And essentially what it did was pave the way for a government-led CBDC, and it also banned any other form of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or digital currency that existed. So for me, it very clearly was a threat to our freedom. In South Dakota, we are the session that completes its business earliest in the year. We are the first ones to really look at this bill and find out the truth of what's in it. And I did veto that bill. I'm asking my legislators to change their minds, to make the right decision and help me kill this bill once and for all. But I'm telling you, Tucker, we've got the same language coming to over 20 other states. I believe it's to pave a way for the federal government to control our currency and thus control people. It should be alarming to everyone, and it's being sold as a UCC guidelines update. There's no rush to do this. We need to be smart and make sure that we're doing what we can to protect people. I find it ironic that we also are having this discussion at the same time we have banks and credit card companies talking about coding gun and ammunition in a separate code so they can track it. So not only can they tie these two issues together, if the government doesn't approve of what you're purchasing, if they have the only form of digital currency out there and that is endorsed and utilized in the country, they can control how you spend that money and thus take away all your freedom.
It's so nicely put, and I don't think you're overstating at all the significance of this. Really quickly, do you think, and you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt on their motives, but do you think that legislators in your state understand what this bill was actually designed to do?
I don't know if they read it, Tucker. That's what is alarming to me, is it was over 110 pages long, and they were told by lobbyists that they had listened to for the last 20 years that it's fine. It's just a regulation update. This is what we do, is adopt federal regulations. But if you start reading it, you see in there is a redefinition of currency, that it says government CBDCs are okay if they're run by the government, but any other form is then banned. It is clearly a change for how people's assets are utilized. It clearly limits the freedom of people to use other forms of currency that they may choose to if it is a digital currency. And it is clearly putting power into the hands of government. If anything we should have learned the last several years is the government can't be trusted.
And of course, what's funny about this, right, is even the governor of the state of South Dakota recognizes, gosh, do you think the legislators read the bill? Ha, 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 probably not, because this is the way things go. And I think one of the points she made is incredibly interesting, because we're seeing the same thing here in Tennessee. Well, all the bankers say everything's just fine. All the lobbyists that these folks are used to talking to say it's just fine. Everybody says it's okay, so what do? They pass it. And they don't actually read what's going on in the bill, and they don't actually address the concerns that a lot of us are having by putting these regulations in place. I want to show you this real quick. It's worth noting. So here is the, let me correct myself. I said universal commercial code. Uniform commercial code is what I should have said. And that uniform commercial code, UCC, is managed by the Uniform Law Commission, the ULC. And so right now, the Uniform Law Commission is tracking how many states are adopting these 2022 amendments to this new digital framework that they're introducing into the states. Well, here's what I want you to see. So far, only 11 states have passed these changes to this Uniform Commercial Code, and 11 other states have only introduced the bill. Now, I want you to look at this list and recognize something I think is really important. Tennessee, you can see, is in the list that has introduced the bill. There are 11 states that have already enacted the bill. I want you to take a look at what's missing. In fact, I want to point out 2 states in particular that aren't on this list at all, that not only have not enacted this legislation, but have not even introduced it to the legislature. You won't see states like Florida and Texas on this list. Yet, you see Tennessee on this list, ready and willing to pass these amendments. What do these amendments do exactly? What is happening? Let me take you here to this article written by a guy named Justin Haskins of the Heartland Institute, who I thought did a really good job sort of summarizing some of the key concerns nationally with this legislation as these 2022 UCC amendments are rolled out across the country. And I want to draw attention to a couple of these things in particular. He states fact number 2, the 2022 UCC amendments would make it easier to use a CBDC in the future, laying the foundation for a U.S. central bank digital currency like the one discussed by the Biden administration. For example, the amendments to Article 9 of the UCC would establish the category of electronic money specifically to account for the creation of a central bank digital currency and its use by consumers and institutions outside of a bank account. I want to draw a lot of attention to this fact number 3, and I want to harp on this for a moment because it's really important to understand what's being said. The 2022 UCC amendments would allow for the use of a central bank digital currency that is programmable and easily controlled by a centralized authority. Listen to the explanation. The UCC amendments to Article 9 allow for the exclusive control requirement to be met even if the electronic money, a record attached to or logically associated with the electronic money, or a system in which the electronic money is recorded limits the use of the electronic money or has a protocol programmed to cause a change, including a transfer or loss of control. Let's unpack that for just a minute, because that was a mouthful of words. The UCC acknowledges when it's looking at an asset, and understand what's happening here. The UCC is redefining what can be used as an asset in terms of security, collateral, for example, on a mortgage or some other type of loan. And what is happening in these amendments is it's expanding the ability to use digital assets like cryptocurrencies as collateral or hard assets to back some type of loan that you're trying to acquire. Now, I don't necessarily believe that's a bad thing whenever you're talking specifically about blockchain and cryptocurrency. But the problem is this also sets the table for a central bank digital currency. And what's being explained here in terms of this idea of exclusive control is that these new UCC regulations will acknowledge the phrase exclusive control, meaning that what? That you have control of the asset, that the asset in some tangible way is yours, used by you exclusively and for your exclusive benefit. This new regulation states that even if the electronic money can be limited in its use, and even if it can be reprogrammed to be transferred out of your control, that it will still satisfy the UCC's definition of exclusive control. Now, what do you think they could be talking about? Central bank digital currency. Because think about this for a minute. That is exactly how central bank digital currency could work in the future. They call this beneficial ownership. You have ownership of something, but only to the degree that you are allowed to enjoy its benefits, which means you don't actually own it. Well, that's how central bank digital currency works, because you own it as long as they don't take it from you. You see, you have exclusive control of CBDC until you don't. until because your social credit score has become so low, they limit how you can use your money. They limit what types of goods you can use your money for, or they decide to transfer the use of that currency out of your possession altogether. So hear what's being said. What's being said by the UCC under these new guidelines is that even though your asset can be taken from you or reprogrammed by a central authority, we're going to consider that an asset. That's what we're going to consider an asset in the digital age, assets that can be controlled. I want to take you to this one final point. Fact number 6, the 2022 UCC amendments would redefine money so that existing cryptocurrencies could never be considered money under the UCC. And I want to read this point right here. Instead of being classified as money, the UCC amendments would designate cryptocurrencies as controllable electronic records. Many supporters of these amendments claim that these provisions would help the cryptocurrency market because there are economic advantages to being classified as a controllable electronic record. However, numerous critics, myself included, do not object to these amendments necessarily, nor do we object because they would unquestionably harm cryptocurrency. He goes on to say the primary reason critics of these amendments object to prohibiting existing cryptocurrencies from being considered money is simply that there is far too much that remains unknown. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the point that I want to camp on here for a minute. It is simply that there is far too much that remains unknown about the future of both cryptocurrencies and central bank digital currencies. I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that the men running this bill have any nefarious intent. I just think they don't understand it. And I guarantee you, on the floor, the 132 legislators that will be asked to vote on this legislation, I can promise you that the great majority of that 132 have not considered these ramifications and have not even read this bill and have no idea about the harm that may potentially come to Tennessee by passing these kinds of regulations. As I showed you before, the simple fact is, as the ULC pushes this through 50 states, only 11 states have enacted the legislation. Only 11 other states have introduced it, and states like Texas and Florida have not even introduced the legislation yet. And my point is this: there is no tangible benefit to any Tennessean today by passing this legislation. There is only, in my opinion, potential harm. And I believe that when you look at the use of cryptocurrencies, blockchain, the possible promulgation of a central bank digital currency, these are areas that Tennessee ought not to concern itself today with regulating. These regulations are not national at this time. There's no good reason to be looking at a bill like this right now in Tennessee. There's no benefit. There's only potential danger. So we're simply asking Representative Rush Bricken and Senator John Stevens to withdraw the bill. There are too many concerns. We appreciate the amendment. Thank you for stating that Tennessee does not recognize a national digital currency. But we don't want to adopt anything right now in Tennessee that may in the future set the scheme by which digital currency is now pushed down to Tennesseans at the threat of now our money being controlled by a central authority. We want to avoid those things and push back on those things at all costs. And I'm thankful for Kristi Noem last year, at least alerting everyone to what was going on here. And I hope Tennessee does the same. So right now, you can go to TennesseeStands.org, click on ACT, and visit our Legislative Priorities 2024 page and take action on SB 479, HB 640, and let our legislature know that we in no way, shape, or form want to set the table for the possibility of a future central bank digital currency here in our state. Stay tuned, stay involved, stay engaged.